Join our community by subscribing. Every click helps us share more stories like this one. The introduction. It was a quiet town, nestled at the edge of a sprawling forest, where whispers of the past lingered like a haunting shadow. The streets were lined with aged oak trees, their gnarled branches reaching out as if trying to embrace the very homes they shaded. The picturesque facade of Maplewood belied a lingering tension that simmered beneath its surface, the kind that only a select few could sense. On a brisk autumn morning, the town awoke to the sound of sirens piercing the chill in the air. An early morning jogger, Emma Hayes, stumbled upon a scene that would shatter the community's peace. A single abandoned shoe resting on the dirt path, partially obscured by fallen leaves. As she knelt to inspect it, a sense of foreboding crept into her chest. Ignoring her instinct to run, she pulled out her phone and dialed 911. News spread swiftly. By mid-morning, officers were combing the area, searching for signs of struggle. The surrounding woods, with their thick undergrowth and impenetrable shadows, loomed ominously as if guarding secrets best left undisturbed. Residents gathered in hushed clusters, eyes darting from the scene to one another, speculation brewing like a storm cloud. In the heart of the town, memories stirred of a tragedy that had long remained dormant, a case that had haunted Maplewood for decades. As detectives arrived, heavy with the weight of expectation, they knew they had a long road ahead. Echoes of the past whispered in the wind, and the invisible thread connecting both stories began to intertwine ominously. The victim. As the investigation unfolded, attention turned toward a young woman whose name had recently graced the local headlines. Kelly Riggs was a familiar face in Maplewood, a vibrant spirit who had touched many lives with her laughter and kindness. She was 25, an aspiring writer whose dreams were as vast as the horizon that enveloped the small town. Kelly had a penchant for exploring the woods, often weaving her own tales of adventure among the towering pines. That fateful morning, her absence was noted by friends and family. They reported her missing shortly after the shoe was discovered. Kelly had been a regular fixture at the local coffee shop, where the barista could always count on her for a lively conversation and a seat at the window. But now, as they exchanged worried glances, dread seeped into their hearts. Detective James Harper, leading the investigation, felt the weight of the townsfolk's expectation pressing heavy against him. He scoured Kelly's social media accounts for clues, suspecting she might have encountered someone unfamiliar along the winding paths she loved. The last post on her blog described her exhilaration from a recent IKEA reminder of her sense of adventure, but now a foreboding sign, echoing through the silence that followed her disappearance. As Harper pulled together the threads of Kelly's life, he could sense the chasm left behind. Friends recounted stories of her kindness, her boundless energy, and her connections with various community outreach programs, where she dedicated her weekends to help others. Yet, the darkness that now hung in the air was a harsh reminder that the town's idyllic image belied the truth that danger often lurked even in familiar faces. The crime scene. The search for Kelly Riggs intensified, the light of day fading into an unsettling twilight as Detective Harper led a team deeper into the woods. They parked their vehicles along the narrow dirt road, the hum of the engine fading into the ambient sounds of owls and rustling leaves. Echoes of the earlier tranquility were quickly replaced by an air of urgency and dread. Flashes of light from the search team sliced through the gloom, illuminating patches of underbrush that seemed eager to conceal their secrets. As they ventured further into the forest, an unsettling silence enveloped them. The chirping of crickets was muted, creating a heavy pause that lingered like an omen. Darkness crept in, casting long shadows that twisted and turned, with each flicker of the flashlights, as if the trees themselves conspired to shield the terrors that lay hidden. Nearing a clearing where the path thinned, they stumbled upon a spot marked by disturbed earth, indicating something unnatural had transpired there. The air grew heavy and still, mingling with the scent of damp foliage. Search dogs darted through the vegetation, nose to the ground, unwavering in their pursuit. It was at that moment that they hit upon the first piece of crucial evidence, a small silver ring, gleaming amongst the leaves, engraved with intricate designs, unmistakably belonging to Kelly. Harper's heart sank as he observed the Sineno struggle marks. No signs of a fight, only the faint trace of someone who had once been filled with life. Nearby, a small backpack lay abandoned, its zipper half open, revealing scattered pages filled with handwritten notes for a story she was working on. Words of beauty and adventure stood in stark contrast to the sorrow etched around them. As they moved to secure the scene, Harper felt a visceral chill. Maplewood was no longer just a town, it was now the backdrop for an unspeakable crime, a community on the brink of unraveling. The early investigation. In the days that followed, the small town of Maplewood became an epicenter of tension and unease, as the frantic search for Kelly Riggs transitioned into a grim investigation. The sense of community that had long defined the town faltered under the weight of fear. The once familiar faces now masked with worry. Detective Harper and his team set up a command post at the community center, transforming the space into a hive of activity as they processed the scant evidence they had. Interviewing friends and family became priority number one. They gathered at a long table, surrounded by the quiet hum of conversations and the sporadic tapping of keyboards. Each testimony formed a mosaic of Kelly's life, painting a picture of her passions and relationship. Yet each story carried away the common thread of fear that someone among them might be harboring a darker side. Several friends mentioned an unfamiliar man seen lingering near the trail Kelly frequented. He was described as unnervingly out of place, with deep-set eyes and an unkempt beard. They recalled his penetrating gaze as he watched hikers pass by, an ominous presence that sent chills down their spine. Harper took notes, believing the figure might hold the key to understanding Kelly's fate. Meanwhile, the forensic team meticulously combed through the evidence collected from the clearing where Kelly's belongings were found. DNA samples and fingerprints were sent for analysis, but the wait would be agonizing. Each minute that ticked by felt like an eternity, the desperate hope of closure driving everyone to the brink of despair. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an amber glow across the town, Harper collected his thoughts. The tightening knot of fear within him was matched by the uncertainty haunting the townsfolk. Maplewood was transformed, its picturesque essence now overshadowed by whispers of hidden dangers that lurked just beneath the surface. The dead ends. As the investigation progressed, time began to fray the resolve of the Maplewood community. Detective Harper faced a barrage of dead ends, each one a new source of frustration. Weekends melded into nights, and every promising lead dissipated into whispers lost in the wind. The imagined figure of the man eyed by Kelly's friends remained elusive, receding further into shadows with every inquiry. Witnesses recalled different narratives, conflicting details blurring the boundaries of truth. The forensic results offered little solace, yet a lack of identifiable prints and no DNA matching the profiles in the system. The backpack and ring provided no further answers, only serving as stark reminders of Kelly's absence. Volunteers combed the woods tirelessly, their faces etched with fatigue. But each search yielded only echoes of disappointment. The air turned thick with resignation, whispers of dread fueling rumors that anything could have happened in those suffocating woods. Community meetings turned somber, with residents oscillating between hope and despair. Harper's mind lined with unanswered questions. He often found solace in the quiet spaces, curled up with a cup of lukewarm coffee. One evening, he reviewed each account meticulously, trying to weave them into a coherent timeline. But details danced tantalizingly out of reach, like phantoms in the twilight. In a final push for clarity, he decided to revisit Kelly's favorite spots, those hidden places where she found peace. The old wooden bridge overlooking a gentle stream had always been her sanctuary. As he stood there, pondering the intersection of her life with the conundrum now consuming it, the weight of the town's fear settled heavily on his shoulders. The forest felt alive with secrets, each rustle a reminder of the mysteries unanswered. And something told him he was closer to the truth than before. A break in the case. Just as the autumn leaves began to fall, a sliver of hope emerged when a call came through to the command post, shattering the silence that had enveloped the investigation. A couple walking their dog had stumbled across a suspicious clearing beyond the initial search parameters, a place shrouded in overgrowth that had previously evaded notice. Their dog, an eager beagle named Max, had unearthed something buried beneath a thicket of brush, a silver bracelet, unmistakably belonging to Kelly, adorned with tiny charms representing her cherished passions. Detective Harper, buoyed by this new lead, mobilized his team immediately. They trekked to the clearing, the anticipation crackling in the air like electricity. Upon arrival, the scene revealed a greater disturbance in the earthclaw marks in the soil, evidence of something having been forcibly moved. The discovery reignited the fire of possibility within the investigation, offering newfound direction and urgency. Near the remnants of the bracelet, a tattered notebook caught Harper's eye, half hidden under a brittle layer of leaves. As he retrieved it, he realized it was filled with Kelly's handwriting, thoughts spilling over the pages like a flood. It detailed her explorations, her fears of the stranger she had noticed in the woods, and the days leading up to her disappearance, each word resonating with the aching void left behind. The notebook held sketches of the unfamiliar man, mingled with notes of caution, almost as if Kelly had sensed impending danger. Harper felt the weight of her premonition pressing down on him, the blood pumping through his veins as he shared the findings with his team. They began piecing together a timeline based on her insights, trying to identify the man she feared, igniting a renewed fervor that had been absent from the investigation for weeks. With a glimmer of hope sparking within him, Harper realized that they were finally moving past the smokescreen of uncertainty. Details were beginning to align, and he was determined to follow this path, no matter where it led. The suspect. The renewed energy at the command post surged as Detective Harper and his team dissected Kelly's notebook entries. One name surfaced repeatedly, a name previously cast aside: Mark Jordan. Mark was a local handyman known for hanging about the woods, his reputation marred by rumors of a volatile temperament and run-ins with the law. Gil, the barista from the coffee shop, recalled seeing him wandering near the trails, not far from where Kelly often hiked. As their investigation expanded, the team learned that Mark had a history of trespassing and complaints from nearby homeowners regarding his erratic behavior. Interviews revealed he had a fascination with the outdoors that bordered on obsession, speaking with an unsettling fervor about the woods and the hidden places within them. Other residents reported seeing him lurking near the coffee shop, and although his interaction seemed innocuous at first, there was a chill behind his gaze that many couldn't forget. With a growing body of evidence, Harper felt a mix of resolve and apprehension. They organized surveillance to keep an eye on Mark while compiling further details on his whereabouts leading up to Kelly's disappearance. After several days of observation, they noted his patterns, noting an uptick in his activities near the trails where Kelly was last known to be. When the moment arrived to confront him, the atmosphere shifted in the room. Harper's team encircled the small, cluttered office space brought to life by dim desk lamps and shuffling papers. Tension palpable. They coordinated their plan, each member poised for the approach, precision replacing fatigue as they prepared for the draw. As they approached Mark's residence, an old dilapidated cabin hidden behind thick brush, Harper couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter was the tipping point in the investigation. If Mark held the answers they sought, this moment could redefine the fate of not just the case, but the entire community lingering on the edge of fear. The trial. As the trial commenced in the heart of Maplewood, the small town held its breath. A collective sense of dread casting a pall over the proceedings. The courtroom buzzed with anticipation, the air thick with tension. Residents filled the benches, their faces somber and resolute, each hoping for closure in a case that had unraveled their sense of safety and shaken the community to its core. Detective Harper sat among the spectators, replaying the weeks of investigation in his mind. Mark Jordan sat at the defendant's table, his once familiar face now a mask of stone, betraying little as the prosecution laid bare the evidence against him. The pivotal Picia series of entries from Kelly's notebook painted a chilling portrait of her encounters with Mark, amplifying the suspense as the jury absorbed the details. Witnesses took the stand, their voices shaking as they recounted their interactions with both Kelly and Mark, weaving an intricate tapestry of tension and distrust. The defense tried to undermine the credibility of the witnesses, portraying Mark as a misunderstood recluse with affinity for the solitary life of the woods. But cracks began to show too many strange behaviors, too many accounts of his volatility, leading the jury to question his innocence as the testimonies painted a contradictory picture. As each day dragged on, the impact of Kelly's absence loomed large in the courtroom. The memories of her laughter, her vibrant spirit, served as a constant reminder of the light that had been extinguished too soon. Friends and family members sat in silent solidarity, eyes brimming with tears as they invoked the pain of loss, drawing collective strength from each shared glance. Finally, after a grueling week, the jury retreated to deliberate. Detective Harper waited anxiously, aware that the verdict would echo beyond the courtroom walls and back into the town. Each tick of the clock sounded like a countdown to an uncertain future, resonating with the lingering grief and urgency for justice. When the jury returned, Harper could sense the weight of verdict even before the foreman spoke. The verdict, the fate of Maplewood itself, hung in the air, and as the room fell silent, every heart prayed for justice for Kelly. The aftermath. The verdict resonated through Maplewood like an echo of the past, carrying both relief and grief for the town that had stood on the precipice of sorrow for so long. As Mark Jordan was found guilty of kidnapping and murder, the tumult of emotions washed over the courtroom. Some cried tears of bittersweet relief, while others felt the sting of anger mixed with profound sadness. The sentencing marked an end to an agonizing chapter, yet the scars left behind were deep and raw. In the weeks that followed, the town grappled with healing, attempting to adjust to a reality that now felt irrevocably changed. Detective Harper took long walks through the woods where Kelly had once roamed freely, pondering the haunting beauty that had once been her sanctuary. The sounds of nature now echoed differently. Jubilant birdsong felt sullied by the shadows of loss that lingered in every rustle of leaves. Community gatherings, once filled with laughter and camaraderie, transformed into remembrance. Flowers were laid at the base of the old oak tree, where Kelly had written many of her stories, and candlelight vigils illuminated the darkness that had enveloped the town for too long. Her friends shared memories, recounting how she had touched their lives, and slowly, amidst the mourning, a sense of unity began to form. Harper returned to the command post, now a space filled with echoes of camaraderie forged in tragedy. He and his fellow officers remained vigilant, understanding that their work was far from over. The impact of Kelly's case sparked discussions around community safety, and they resolved to initiate outreach programs to educate residents about awareness and vigilance. Yet, perhaps the most enduring legacy of Kelly Riggs was her indomitable spirit, which inspired others to appreciate life's fragility. As autumn gave way to winter, the town transitioned, drawing strength from the grief, uniting to forge paths of remembrance and resilience, a collective memory to honor a life lost too soon, forever reshaping Maplewood in the process. Reflection. As the snow began to blanket Maplewood in a serene white layer, Detective Harper found himself rifling through the pages of his personal journal, recounting the tumultuous journey that had unfolded over the past several months. In the wake of the trial, he reflected on the complexities of justice, the blurred lines between safety and vulnerability, and the intricacies of human nature that could lead to such unfathomable darkness. Sitting by the glowing embers of his fireplace, he sought solace in the warmth of familiarity. Yet the shadows of what had transpired still loomed large in his heart. Each note about Kelly, her laughter, and the passion she had poured into life resonated deeply, creating reverberations of loss and lessons learned. The weight of responsibility both to the victim and the community sat heavily on his conscience. The town, too, began to heal in its own way, with new conversations evolving around the issues of safety and awareness. Residents shared their stories of kindness carried forward in Kelly's memory, igniting conversations about mental health and vigilance that shifted their collective narrative from fear to empower. As winter faded into spring, the lives of Maplewood's residents began to blossom anew, a bittersweet reminder that while darkness does exist, the light of community, hope, and remembrance can fight to break through. The echoes of the past would remain, but they served also as catalysts for change, shaping a future forged from resilience and unity, a testament to the enduring spirit of a young woman who had inspired many even in her absence.